to Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, Jason Strudwick. We got a big hour. Luke Willson in studio later in the hour. We've got Pierre LeBrun coming off the Board of Governor meetings, and it sounds like the cap is going up. Everyone's very excited about that. So exciting that everyone's going to start getting paid that much more money. And we got a Leaf game tonight. We got a lot of games in the NHL tonight. So we'll catch up with Pierre momentarily. Struddy, I don't know if you're up to date on your Wikipedia page, but have you seen the latest? Because it is coming through here that I guess someone has taken it upon themselves to update your description on Wikipedia. It says, Jason Strudwick is a Canadian former professional hockey defenseman, small furniture salesman, and current broadcaster. Do you take pride in being known as a small furniture salesman?
Well, it's a side business, obviously.
I don't know. Can anybody just update anybody's page? Like that's
Scary.
dangerous, right?
Scary, man. Scary.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what? I don't know. Whoever did it, I give him credit because that was really funny. It was just brought to my attention, and it's the funniest thing. Like small furniture salesman. Like, I've moved a few pieces here and there, but it's
You're moving weight out there in Edmonton, Strud. You're a heavy hitter, man. I'm sure all the big box stores are worried about you. Wouldn't that be amazing if, Leon's and, Costco and
the
brick were like, we got to get eyes on this guy, man. What's he doing? He's starting to steal business from us here.
It's like the Michael Scott Paper Company.
That's
right.
right.
They're like, we gotta get this guy in the fold.
Gotta watch it, man. Gotta watch it.
I think there's probably a candid moment where you said I scared myself where I met somebody. Where was it, at West Ed, underneath the parkade or something like that?
Southgate Mall.
Yeah.
It was a rainy
Mall.
day. I met underneath the parkade to sell a bike. Now, it was a good deal. We both were happy. But, walking in, I'm like, if this guy jumps me, it's going to get serious,
Yeah.
I got the bike in one hand. I'm trying to take the guy in the other. Maybe there's two of them. But he came out. He had, one of those longer beards. I knew he wasn't a threat.
You're going to be fine.
If it was handlebar mustache, I'm like, okay, it's go time.
He may have had that plan, and then he saw it was you, and he's like, I can't beat this guy up for this bike. Because you never know what you're going to get when you're meeting someone from online. You have no idea. And it's
always a surprise.
Yeah, it can be very surprising, and you got to watch yourself, man. Got to watch yourself.
I come back to it. It's like, I thought Wikipedia, isn't there a fact checker that somebody has to go through it? Because you can't just start adding stuff to people's pages. That's ridiculous. That's dangerous. Right?
Well, listen, I think they probably have their eyes on major figures. I don't know where the three of us would be on their list of priorities to make sure that there's accuracy there. You can't have something ridiculous. I'm sure. I don't know how it works. I've never tried to edit a Wikipedia page. So I do not know how it works, but I get the assumption, or my understanding was back in the day, when Wikipedia launched, it was basically just the Wild West out there.
Free for all.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is a program, and if you want in and you want to launch a page detailing the history of whoever it was, then you almost had carte blanche, and over time they'd figure it out and I guess edit that. But you'd like to believe so, Noodles, because you're right. Public figures, some guy starts writing something in there, and you're like, wait a minute, what is that supposed to mean? That could be dangerous. Small furniture salesman, I think, is an accurate description of Strud, but
it's been fact checked. I mean, you have actually. But the thing is if you start writing something that's derogatory and awful towards somebody, then I don't know. Do you have to file a complaint or whatever? I've never had to deal with that. But you're right, it is a little bit scary. And you're right. Nobody.
They're not worried about us. They're not worried about us. I don't think Wikipedia is we got to make sure that the Overdrive guys and Struddy are on. Their pages are pristine.
Exactly.
But people wondering where O's at. O's starting to pre-scout for the World Juniors. I mean, that should be a big part of his Wikipedia.
Prep.
Yes, is World Junior preparation galore.
2 weeks away.
For the O-Dog.
It's time.
Yeah, he needs time.
14 days.
Homer Simpson. Didn't we call him? We called him Homer the other night.
Come on.
Well, the other night on the panel, what was the question on the quiz? Is if O was a Simpson character, who would he be? Mm-hmm. And there was like choices, and I was like, it's Homer because he loves days off. So I'm like,
it was perfect.
Isn't there? We have a sound bite on our show where it's like you don't come into work today, and he's like, 4-day weekend or whatever.
Exactly, Melon and Fridays. It's Marge saying like they're saying if you don't come in today, don't come in Monday, indicating you're fired, and Homer's like, oh, awesome! I get both days off, which is how O would interpret that, right? Oh, if you're not going to come in today, you're not coming in next week. You'd be like, oh, beauty! I get 10 days off. That's amazing. Yeah, Homer was the way to go. I went with Bart. I didn't really think much, but Mayor Quimby's a pretty shady little character. Maybe you could have done something there with the O-Dog and found a way to angle that. But there's a lot of different options. He wasn't necessarily loving being the center of that attention. But anyway, it's all
tough
good.
Comparison.
Tough comparisons. Yeah. Tough comparisons. All right, so we got the Leafs in action tonight. We got a lot of games in the NHL. We've got, I guess, the Board of Governors officially behind us. Joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's our TSN hockey insider, Pierre LeBrun. Pierre, can you give us the one item that stood out the most, the one news item that came out of the Board of Governors that you want our audience to make sure they know about?
Oh, boy. You mean notwithstanding the Michael Andlauer?
I guess the soft tampering, that was we found that very interesting. We talked about it a lot, but I think, again, that seems pretty exclusive to the Ottawa Senators. I guess other teams in the league, would he have gotten support for that? Like, what were the owners and governors what was their reaction to the way Andlauer responded to that Larry Brooks report and tying Brady Tkachuk to the Rangers?
Yeah, because I was in the middle of it. There was certainly a lot of interest from other governors asking me how it came up in the interview. Like, people were always curious about the context of receiving those comments. And honestly, it was as standard as it gets. I had planned to sit down with Andlauer on Monday morning, which we did before the Board of Governors even started, just to go over the whole season, right? It's been a up and down season for the Senators, and they're trying to salvage it. And so it's a pretty basic interview, the type of column I want to write. But obviously I was going to ask about Brady Tkachuk because that was a big story last week. And obviously you saw the answer I got, which is a very, very passionate defense of his captain from Michael Andlauer. And really that's where it comes from, is wanting to defend his franchise, defend his captain. They're sick and tired of having their captain's name in trade rumors. And really Andlauer kind of unleashed from there. And the rest, they say, is history. But I would also say that in terms of the reaction, I mean, I think that some owners, if they did talk to Andlauer, would probably say, that's the kind of thing maybe you should keep within the group, because that's usually what happens with those guys. You don't get those headlines very often in terms of owners, speaking out that way. Frankly, I think we should have more of it, but maybe that's self-serving. I mean, I think if you're a Senators fan, I think you'll love the fact that your owner comes out swinging. But I would say, generally speaking, that as time goes on, you'll probably hear less of that from Andlauer as he gets more years under his belt with that group and the way they do things at the Board of Governors level.
Pierre, they also talked a little bit at the Board of Governors about a potential salary cap in playoffs. So if that is indeed fact, which group would have the biggest issue with that? Players, managers, fans, or coaches even?
So, I should start by saying, Struddy, that, Bill Daly, this discussion about the playoff salary cap has been going on for a couple of years. I've written about it ad nauseum. It usually comes up more actually at GM meetings in March than it does here at the Board of Governors, because it's of more interest to managers than it is to owners. And for background, Bill Daly went to the GMs last March and said, okay, I'm so tired of, we're talking about this all the time. What is it you guys want? He put it on the 32 GMs through the executive committee to go back and basically ask every single GM in the league, do you want to fix this or not? Is this something that warrants fixing? And, I was under the impression a few months ago that the majority of GMs, the answer was yes. But I will tell you that we asked Bill Daly, for the final tally and all that, and at the end of the Board of Governors here this week, and he said it was a mixed response. So I was kind of surprised because given the level of noise that this had received, from Tampa and Kucherov to Vegas and so on and so on and so on, and whatever the next team will be in terms of LTIR, I kind of assumed, given the griping I had heard from some GMs, that it was a prevalent notion that they wanted some form of strengthening of the cap in the playoffs. But what Bill Diddley told us was that it was not uniform, that it was a mixed response. So I don't know where this is going now. Drake's talked about it on one of her hits, that there's certainly owners that still believe that this will be addressed in one form or another, potentially in the next CBA. And as we know, the PA and the league are going to start CBA extension talks in February. So it's one of two things. Either there's not enough support to close this loophole, or maybe that the league, and talking about it with us, are trying to downplay it because, when you get closer and closer to CBA talks, I just know this from all the lockouts I've covered, the league doesn't want to negotiate through the media if it thinks it has a chance to really get something done with the PA. It wants to wait till it gets in the room with the PA to address it. So we'll find out which one it is, but I will tell you I'm less confident of a playoff cap today than I was 6 months ago, which is strange.
So, Pierre, I just wanted to put a bow on the Brady Tkachuk thing and the soft tampering and all of that. Like, what can you share with us, or what obviously you've talked to people and stuff like that. Larry Brooks is not a guy who just throws spaghetti at the wall either. I mean,
right.
To me, what came out of it, and was there kind of behind the scenes some stern talking to both organizations saying knock it off? Like, where anything that you could share as far as nuggets, or is it just kind of put to bed and they're moving on type of thing?
Yeah, and so Noodles, you hit the first nail right on. Larry Brooks is a Hockey Hall of Fame reporter, so this is not some social media off the wall rumor. I mean, this is an accomplished reporter who breaks a lot of Rangers stories, who put out that the Rangers are targeting him last week. That's why this got so much attention. Let's be real here. We don't know who his sources were. That's none of our business. And neither do the Senators. But, a lot of people are assuming that he's pretty connected to the Rangers, and hence why the Senators are so upset. What came out of it is that Bill Daly said he did have a brief conversation with Michael Andlauer on Monday. I don't know if it was during or after the first day of the Board of Governors meeting. And what I was told is that, basically that conversation went like this, that, the league does understand where Andlauer is coming from as far as the frustration of continually having their captain out there. But I think the league also was like, you still got to be careful when you're throwing out that, that word. And on top of it, the league also said, to Andlauer, Bill Daly did, that they don't see right now that there's any evidence to go forward and actually have an investigation about it. I think so for now, it just seems like it's a dead issue, other than the fact that I don't think the Rangers and Senators are going to break bread anytime soon. The Rangers are pretty upset about it, and the Senators are still upset too. But I think the context that's important, and TJ may have mentioned this on a sit with you guys that night, but the league put out a memo a couple of weeks ago on tampering and said to all 32 teams, we're getting sick and tired of all this tampering over the last year, and we're going to crack down on this, and could be, significant fines and or loss of draft picks. So I think that's the one part that maybe, I should have been more clear on too, but I think Andlauer was coming at it from that context that the league itself is telling teams, stop with the tampering, because we're actually going to do something about it. So the league said.
Exactly. I'll believe that when I see it.
Right, exactly.
It's never going to happen.
That's the full context of that. I think for now it's done, but, it certainly got everyone's attention.
With Pierre LeBrun. So Jacob Trouba in town tonight. How would you describe the likeliness of him playing out the rest of the season and this year and or next with the Anaheim Ducks?
I mean, I think the rest of the season, at the very least, he obviously chose Anaheim out of the other options for a reason. I think it's been well publicized that his wife's a doctor in the New York area. So obviously on the personal side of things, they got to figure out how that all plays out after this year. And by the way, it's interesting. The Ducks had a ton of cap room, so taking on the full contract, while that got a lot of attention, if there ain't team in the league that could do it, it's Anaheim. They had the most room in the league, so it wasn't a big deal for them, except that he's got another year in the deal at $8 million next year, which leads to this. There are two players that are, that the Ducks are very much willing to move here, and one who is mutually just as eager to get moved. One is John Gibson, and we talked about him. Noodles and I have certainly talked about him. And the other one is Cam Fowler. And both those guys have term left, so not easy to move them. But, I would surmise that Anaheim is even more motivated or incentivized now to move either or if not both, now they've taken on Trouba's contract. So let's keep an eye on Fowler and see, I think his agent Pat Brisson is, I think also incentivized to try and probably find him a new home. And with John Gibson, Kurt Overhart, his agent, also, has really been on the same page as the Ducks and Pat Verbeek saying, yeah, let's find this goalie a new home. There's a new number one in Anaheim and Dostal. So, with Colorado trading for Blackwood this week, that eliminated one team off the potential Gibson marketplace, that's for sure. So we'll see whether or not there's a way to move Gibson.
JT Miller's coming back in the lineup for the Canucks tonight, and this morning he spoke, didn't say really anything about what happened or why or whatever. But do you get the sense that this may affect his relationship with the team moving forward? And then following that up with Brock Besser and what could be a big contract for him as a UFA this summer.
Yeah, it's lots to go on there, Struddy. I mean, I think that at the outset, my sense, with JT Miller's camp are pretty appreciative at the onset of the support actually they got from the Canucks and how they handled the JT Miller situation, right? So in terms of supporting him and telling him to take the time he needs, I think that was well received and well appreciated. It should be noted that, it's been reported elsewhere, but it was confirmed to me as well. The New York Rangers, JT Miller's a guy the Rangers checked in on, a couple of weeks ago, as the Rangers seem to be calling every single team in the league. But the answer at the time from the Canucks was no. So all those things are interesting. And, the Canucks have almost never had their full lineup the entire year, and yet have found ways to pick up points, which I think is extremely healthy for that franchise. They've not been at their best. I get it, but there's so many teams in the bottom third of the league that have excuses for why they are where they are. Well, the Canucks have more excuses than almost anyone to not win at all. And kudos to Rick Tocchet, but they found a way on many nights to just grind it out. And I think that's awfully impressive, honestly, if you sit back and look back and say, gee, you start the first couple months without Demko, you got this happen, that injury. It would have been easy within that room to say it's just not our year, and that's not how they reacted. So I like to look at the cloud top pool there with Vancouver.
All right, Pierre, we'll leave it there. Enjoy the games tonight.
Right on. We'll be watching some hockey and some football. You know that.
As you should. How about your Cowboys as underdogs against Carolina this week?
Thank goodness. Let's keep losing, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, that was disgusting how I knew they were going to lose to Cincinnati. The fact that they gave up that touchdown late and Chase was untouched, no help over the top, to not even cover that game was
they did it on purpose.
It was awful. Horrible, considering I was on the Cowboys. They're getting points. Anyway, enjoy it tonight, Pierre. We'll do it again soon.
All right, sounds good.
Pierre LeBrun joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. The Carolina Panthers have not been a favorite, I believe, in 33 games. It's something like that. Yeah, they have been an underdog for years, and they're actually a favorite against the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. So
Crazy.
That is a backhanded shot at Dallas, really.
Yeah.
Basically, Vegas is saying you guys are horrible, and I'm going to make sure that Carolina's a favorite here. So, we'll see what JT Miller's got tonight. Rick Tocchet said he's going to kind of ease him into the lineup, and I'll believe that when I see it. They got Florida in town tonight. If it's a big game, tough game, right? If Miller's playing well, he's going to play. He's going to play him 20 minutes tonight if he has to.
Lankinen starting.
But Lankinen starting, not Demko. I don't know, man.
You know what it is, though? This is my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel. I think they're just trying to ease him back. This guy hasn't played hockey and feels like a calendar year.
Yeah.
Just no use in force-feeding him a bunch of starts. You gave him a start. And Lankinen, the other thing, too, that we've lost sight of is Lankinen's played really well. He's probably their MVP right now. Like, they're, how good he's played. Well, Quinn Hughes, you got, obviously, guys you could throw out. But Lankinen was a throw-in. Like, they brought him in at the end of training camp going, we'll sign this guy with musical chairs, and he's been brilliant. Like, we focus on Anthony Stolarz and how great he's been. I think, like, Stolarz of the West is Lankinen.
Yeah.
He's been that good for Vancouver.
He's been outstanding.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
Well, I mean, you got a scenario here where in Vancouver, they're just into a playoff spot. It's only December, but still, you gotta get points. You got to keep up. So at some point, you're going to have Demko go. I understand what their reasoning would be. I think it's probably frustrating if you're a Canuck fan because you want to see him play. But he backed up the first couple of games, then he plays. Now he's off. It's not like it's a back-to-back again. They're on this long homestand, and they've eased him in. Same thing, I guess, again with JT Miller, but that wasn't injury related. That was personal. But they're sitting on 33 points. Calgary's come back to earth. The rest of the West really isn't that deep. It isn't very good. So I'm still pretty confident that the Canucks will make the playoffs, but it's not like they're running away with a playoff spot.
No, but I think they've played, isn't it 1 or 2 games less than the rest of
the they got games in hand.
Yeah, and then like JT Miller, last year in the playoffs and last year, he was so good for them. He's such a competitive guy. He digs on every puck. He gets to the net. He makes plays. Like, he is a huge part of their team. And I think when he's at his best, he's the heartbeat of that team. And that includes Quinn Hughes. So he is so important for this group. So getting him back in that lineup. And with Demko, I don't see a need to, force feed him a ton of games. Let him get his feet back on him, and then let his, I forget, a knee or a quad, whatever it was, let that just slowly get back to make sure it's okay, because you remember what happened last year. He came back, then he was out again, right? Then he could have came back for the playoffs, but he didn't come back for the playoffs if they would have beat the Oilers. Like, it's just, I would just want to make sure I'm not thinking about the next month. I'm thinking about the next whatever, Noodle, 7-8 years with Demko. I want this guy right and make sure he feels it's right, which is probably as important as anything else.
It is. It's an investment for him. It's just, the process to get him there. Sometimes you want to hurry him as a fan. You want to hurry him as a media member because you're going, okay, like, looks healthy to me. He's got a jersey on, but he's not playing. But you understand there's a plan in place, but it doesn't make it any less easy for us to speculate going, why isn't this guy playing? That's just, it's our job on the dark side here, like going, why isn't this guy available? But Lankinen's been great. So that's the other thing. It's not like their goaltending has suffered and they really need him. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's been very good. And again, they got Florida in town tonight, and that'll be a challenge. That is going to be a challenge. But we got Luke Willson coming in. We'll get to our picks tonight. Al's brother, I believe, is still lurking in the background. And he is putting together some tremendous information because Hazenbro is on the clock. We are +2 going into Week 15. It is crunch time now. Like, you get into December, this is where the real team starts separating from the frauds. And as of right now, Hazenbro in the driver's seat. Massive swing game tonight. We'll tee it up. We'll tee up the week. We'll get into a number of things with Luke. We got Carlo coming up. Koliakovo will join us in studio at 6. More on Leafs Ducks tonight right here on TSN Radio. A lot of games throughout the NHL. And I've got my list coming up in just over an hour. Our best bet still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050N on TSN 4.
If you smell what the Luke Willson is cooking. Girl, you know it's true. I love you.
All right, Luke Willson in studio. Al's brother is hovering with tremendous information. Al's brother will come storming in here momentarily. Luke, good to see you. You got 2 pro athletes with you, Jason Strudwick, Jamie Noodles McLennan. Noodles and Struddy, I'm sure they're willing to give you a pro athlete salute.
Boys?
There it is. The pro athlete salute for the boys. Everyone's having a good time.
Keep the club tight.
Yeah, it's a tough club to get in, man.
Hey, how about that cover Monday night?
That was the most disgusting cover
ever. A pro athlete cover.
No, it wasn't.
That's a pro athlete cover.
That had me thinking the Cowboys were on the tape. Like, something was going on there because how you play soft coverage on Chase in a situation like that. He didn't even touch him.
I mean,
and
beyond that, the punt is insane.
Oh, my God. How do you touch that football? What did he think he was accomplishing?
My first year, I mean, really all the way through, but my first year in the NFL, this line has stuck with me. If the ball is blocked behind the line of scrimmage, goes the other way, we're trying to scoop and score. That's a 100%er.
Right.
If the ball crosses the line of scrimmage, the
run.
Peter term, it's run, but this is what I was told stuck with me. You treat that ball like it's a live grenade.
Right.
Everyone should be screaming Peter, and you run as far and as fast away as you can. Because even if you're lingering around, which I don't know if you could run that back again. This is what's even crazier, is that guys can shove you into it. Right. And it's not a penalty. So it's like not just the guy who touched the ball here, but everybody. Like, why are we even near the ball? why is anyone there?
It's sickening. And look at how many...
It's a live grenade, Hayes.
There's 4 Bengals around him. He's literally... I guess what he was trying to do was stop momentum, thinking this ball's going to keep going.
For what?
But exactly.
6 more yards?
For 6 more yards. It's insanity. Like, if there was a gap where he's like, if I pick this up, I can take it to the house. Even then, stupid.
Yes.
But I can reason
totally.
with it.
If no one's around, you're clear as day. But again, not only the guy who touched it, like, he's obviously the biggest bonehead here.
Ever.
But the guys around should also be screaming. And again, I don't know why this is a term, but the term is Peter, like the name. You're crossing your arms. And when I would hear the term Peter, live grenade, get out. Yeah. Because the worst thing is if somebody blocks you into it and your heel hits it, you're jammed, and you're also an idiot.
Those are the most entertaining reviews to watch because you know that guy. He's on special teams. So we're not talking about some guy with $50 million in the bank, more than likely at that point, or like security who's going to be around forever. It could literally be the 53rd man on the roster who is just there to make sure he doesn't touch a live grenade when it's going. And when they slow it down, they're like, "Oh my God, it touched his heel." And the ball's going the other way because that guy couldn't get out of the way. It's a sickening thing to say, but it's so entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I was on the desk, and like my pops follows the OverDrive, and he's pulling obviously for the good guy.
Yeah, of course.
So he's texting me here, and like we're watching, and he's like, "Man, like it looked like we were absolutely jammed."
Dead.
And I'm sitting up there, and I'm like, "Yeah," and then all of a sudden, I'm down on Jay's desk, and I shot him a text for the show. I go, "What an absolute incredible cover!"
So on our group chat, because right after that punt, immediately I go, expletive Cowboys, and then I go, if they punch in 6 here, this is the most disgusting cover of all time.
And then you
30 seconds later,
Jamar Chase doesn't get
touched, dude. He was moonwalking into the end zone.
Correct, from the 20-yard line.
From the 20, it was gross. But anyway, moving on to let's get your take. Look at this. Look how slow he's like. I'm cruising in here, and like the Cowboys quit on the play too because they couldn't get him. Just horrendous. Didn't even touch him.
The attack angle, I believe that's Deron Bland.
Yeah, it is. It is. And he was.
I can't even fathom.
It's a horrendous turn of events that put us in a position where we're +2. We're still okay, but if we were +4,
that's a huge swing.
Massive swing that one.
And to be honest, we're grinding right now. Like we erased -6 to +2.
Yeah,
and we've been stuck at this thing. But that's why I'm feeling great about tonight because. Boy, is it a greasy one.
It's tonight. A greasy game, and
it's a greasy one.
We've got the pick. Our pick is set, so we'll get to it in a moment. Al's brother will join us. But do you think both of these teams, like Seattle, I think has Green Bay at home this week. That's a tough game. Like I got to think Shanahan and McVay are telling their guys, we win a game tonight, we could win this division. Like we could be leading this division in a week.
Totally, because Seattle has Green Bay, which I don't expect them to win. Mm-hmm. But then they also follow that up, and both games are at home, which will help Seattle, with Minnesota.
Right.
So you're playing arguably of the top 4 NFC teams. You've got the Lions and Eagles, and you're playing 3 and 4. And I would be very shocked if this whole division does not come down to Week 18. And the crazy one to me is the Niners. Now, their schedule is an absolute gauntlet. But they get this one tonight. They play Miami next week. Mm-hmm. And that's a winnable game. Yeah. And now, all of a sudden, they're going to have to grind, like I said, because they go to Detroit. Or, actually, they play Detroit. I think Detroit comes to them. Excuse me. I got to figure out where
they do have at. Detroit coming up, though.
Yeah. They got Detroit Week 17, and I believe it's Arizona Week 18. So I sit here and say, hey, at that point of the year, that Week 17 game against Detroit, is it one of those things where if the Niners can win tonight, beat Miami, which is plausible, they are favored tonight, as you know. Now, all of a sudden, the Seahawks slip up. They're sitting there like, hey, we could probably have a home, for all the garbage that's happened, they could have a home playoff game. The same could be said for the Rams. Rams win tonight, and the Seahawks lose Sunday. We're tied for the division.
Well, you talk about momentum. The Rams beat the Bills in a shootout at home. If you go into your arch nemesis and beat the Niners tonight, like that is a significant swing. We'll get to the pick momentarily. We haven't asked you about Bill Belichick going to college.
I'm glad you asked.
Like, where does your head go with this story?
I think it's the coolest thing on planet Earth.
Really?
I really do.
You do?
Wow.
I'm confused
I know.
by it. I can't
Everybody's
understand
all jammed up. I look at Bill, first and foremost, what has he got to prove in the NFL? I know there was some stupid documentary that claimed he had nothing to do with winning. Like, you're talking to a guy who's lost a game in the Super Bowl to Bill Belichick's Patriots. I can promise you, he is the only coach I have ever played a game against where we were prepping for two totally different defenses with the same guys.
Amazing.
Like, we would come out here and it was like, hey, by the way, this team will go from a 4-3 to a 3-4 in the middle of the second quarter, which is, again, I think I played over 100 and some odd games in this league. I've never, ever heard of anyone doing that. And this is prepping for a Super Bowl. Like, this guy he's done it all. Okay, and you can make the argument it was Tom. I think it's a collective. I don't think any Super Bowl's ever won by one person. So I look at him now and I'm like, all right, look at the NFL. It's the opposite of what Bill Belichick wants to do. It's a joke. Week in and week out, you have dummies who touch punts after it's crossing line scrimmage. You have brutal play calling. We come in here every week, and it's like, hey, coach calls a timeout. Coach does this. Coach runs a QB sneak from the 1 yard line with 3 timeouts left. Shout out the Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
And I sit here, I'm like, why would Bill want to be in this league anymore? He's going to go to North Carolina. It's a perfect spot for him. He's going to get all the hard-nosed football guys that he wants. He's got complete control of everything.
He's so happy.
Yeah.
Look at this guy. Yeah.
He's going back to what he likes doing, just playing ball at a fundamentally more enjoyable level.
Do you think he'll be effective, though, as a college coach?
I think they will win the ACC within 2 years.
I mean, it's all about recruiting.
Wow.
Like, the whole thing is recruiting.
I agree, but here's if I'm Bill, this is the angle I'm working. I'm going to the kid, just like he did it. This is the next thing I'll say about playing New England. Okay? The year before when we won the Super Bowl, you looked at that Denver team, across the board loaded. I'm talking, you had Julius Thomas, a tight end, who back then was ripping. Demaryius Thomas, Welker was on that team. I mean, those three guys, obviously Peyton Manning, you're humming. It's like we play the Patriots. I'm like, this team's got 3 above average players as far as athletic talent goes. But as a team, they were way better, way better. And I sit here and say to myself, full team, because the Broncos offense that year obviously has a million records. But I'm like, man, he's going to have some numpty from Rivals.com give all the 5 stars out. He's not going to want any of those guys, much like he did in free agency. Outside of Randy Moss, I don't know who they had offensively outside of Tom. Dante Stallworth?
That was kind of their history, yeah. I mean,
they've had 15 different running backs?
Yeah, couple of running backs, but that's it.
To some obscure school in Pennsylvania.
I mean, he had Gronk. We should point that out. Gronk was
phenomenal.
Probably pretty good.
Okay, some obscure school in Pennsylvania or North Carolina or down in God knows where. Find some just football kid and be like, hey, buddy, you want to go high-end D1 AA or you want to come here and I'll make you the best player in the country? And he's going to get him.
Yeah, he probably would.
He's going to get him for that exact reason.
But don't you think people would want to play for Belichick?
Yes.
Just like if you're a player, like you want to play for the best coaches, regardless if he's a pain in the ass or hard on you. Like I know, some of the best coaches and hardest coaches in hockey was Darryl Sutter. I loved playing for Darryl Sutter. Was he a dream to play for some days? No, but he got the best. He got the best out of you. Don't you think Belichick will get the best out of some of these players, and they'll go, "I need to play for this guy. He will make me a player."
He will. There'll be Noodles. It will go both ways. The guys who love ball will do exactly what you say, and the guys who don't will fan out and hate Bill Belichick. That's how it's going to go.
Right.
But I will say this. The other thing is if you're a person that believes that they want to be a pro football player, how do you say no to not going to North Carolina? And what I mean by that is you don't think Bill still has a million connections in the NFL, whether it's the front office?
A million.
They're going to go right to Bill, and Bill's going to be like, can this guy play? You get the stamp of approval from Bill Belichick.
Well,
you're good.
I think what you're also going to get, you're going to get a lot of parents, a lot of dads who are like, Belichick, we're going to Carolina, we're going to Carolina. I saw Florio point out, and I think it's a pretty good point, how many college coaches this year was Belichick talking to and getting information on, and they had no idea that they were giving it to him with what's coming, right? Because Bill's so connected, and he's been doing so many different things. He could call up any coach in the country. They'd tell him anything he wanted.
Totally.
For an hour. Hey, what kind of defense are you running? Now the guy's the head coach in Carolina. Like, he'll be competing against these teams.
And again, I sit here and I say, let's say Bill goes to Chicago, which I don't, obviously he's not going now, but so he wins another Super Bowl. What does that do to his legacy? Like, does that mean he's the best coach of all time? Is he not already considered that?
He would be on a short list. I mean, listen, Don Shula keeps the record.
Yes.
The 72 Dolphins keep their record.
Which ain't coming down anytime soon.
Not coming down in terms of most wins ever, but yeah, he's 72 and he's off the Chapel Hill. It's pretty incredible.
And now he's going to enjoy himself.
Yeah, he will.
But Luke, isn't there some element of relationship building with alumni, with the boosters? Like,
yes.
How's he gonna is that not a big part of the coach's job? I just don't see him glad-handing, Jimmy from Ford down in North Carolina to get his $500,000. I think that's gonna be a real challenge.
So, Struddy, I would totally agree. And my guess is, knowing Bill, he has a guy that's going to do that. And I also doubt that he's going to be calling or making any home recruit calls. Like, I remember different situation, but when I got down to Rice, I took an unofficial visit to Stanford, and I sit there and I meet with Jim Harbaugh, and it's like, hey, Harbaugh's calling, but it's like he doesn't call you, his guys do. Like, there's a minion where, like, at a school like Rice, I got my recruiting coach, but the head coach is also calling me. So there's kind of that dynamic where it's like Bill ain't calling me, his recruiting guy's calling me. Right. Similar to how Harbaugh was at Stanford, where it was just like, I think that for that stuff, knowing Bill Belichick, he'll be like, I'm not doing it, but here's a guy that will.
Well, here's a guy that will bring tremendous information.
I've got him in a huge blender right now.
I don't think you do.
He thinks it's a layup, and I've got him in the world's biggest blender.
Oh, it's far from a layup. It is.
He just told me it's a layup off the set.
Well, he's throwing you off, man. Al's brother,
I don't have to do nothing.
Al's brother knows what's up. Take a seat there, Al's brother. Good seeing you.
Struddy and Noodles are going to love how this conversation goes.
All right, let's clarify where the line is at, all right? Doogie, is it -2.5 still?
2.5? I thought it was 3.
No, it's Niners minus 2.5.
Even better for
we
us.
discussed this, that we're going to get jammed up because the Niners are probably going to add a bunch. Like Bosa will be announced that he's playing in half an hour, and the line will shoot up.
That's 100% going to happen. You know that this is going to happen, too. We woke up this morning. It was sitting at 3. All of a sudden, it gets bet down to 2.5. It was probably Doogie throwing in a big old bet.
Right.
He's now getting paid by NFL people. And we know that Garendo's going to play tonight. Bosa's going to play tonight. They activated Dre Greenlaw, who's coming back off that Achilles injury from the Super Bowl, and he's going to play. I think there's going to be a lot of late. There's going to be a lot of late money that's going to come in. I guarantee you it's going to get pushed up to 3. We're going to get jammed.
Okay, so with that in mind, we got to put that. It's loser energy. We don't want anything to do with that. Leave that to these guys. Tremendous information. Niners laying 2.5 at home against the Rams.
I came with some TG today.
Where are you at?
I came with some TG.
Where are you at, Al's brother?
He's sweating this.
Week 15, man. It is like we're into December. This is when the pretenders
separate.
You ever heard of momentum? We weathered the storm.
That was
brought
such
it back.
A disgusting
we
cover
covered
the other night.
The grossest game of the year. You lose this and we're down 1, and it's our pick heading into Sunday.
For a layup on Sunday,
worst game on the
They
Sunday
haven't been announced yet. They haven't been announced yet.
We'll get to that
tomorrow.
We can
get to that.
We'll get to it tomorrow.
I'm warning you right now. We get another lead this year, you will not see it again, boys. You better pick this right.
Well,
you better pick this right.
And we're going to, because you're not going to see another lead this year. It's going to stay with Hazenbrough. I guarantee it.
Right.
A Charles Barkley guarantee.
All right, what do we have?
I like the Rams to cover the number tonight. It got bet down. We're getting half a point less, which sucks because 3 is a key number. And I did have to really think about it. But then I went and I did the information. I went and I looked up some things. And look, It's Thursday night. Sean McVay on Thursday nights is automatic. 9-2 in his career on Thursday Night Football.
It's not automatic.
And
it's
this,
9-2.
it's a very, very strong likelihood.
Very close to automatic.
He's going to win this football
Semi-automatic.
game. But what I like really is the way that this Rams offense is rolling. And I'm not sure what information that you've cooked up. You told me that it's not a good offense.
That's not what I said.
Look what they've been doing the last 4 weeks. The last 4 weeks, this offense has been rolling. They're averaging 28 points a game, averaging 367 yards per game. Stafford's got 10 touchdowns, no picks. They're protecting the football. Kyron Williams is going off for 4.8 yards per game. He's got 4
they've averaged
touchdowns.
367.
Yes.
Which puts them, first and foremost, they're 15th on the year average. But just to let you know,
and
on the whole season, San Francisco averages 376.
That's
it's a fourth best offense in the league, yards per game.
This is correct.
Let's go to the defense. I'm just letting you know this doesn't happen.
Listen, go ahead.
He didn't come with TG. He came with, I watched the Bills lose last week. This team must be good.
Accurate. They did lose.
There is not one stat on planet Earth that says the Niners will lose this game.
The Niners they may not lose this game. I just need them to not cover this game.
That's right.
I can see this
You're telling me right now, yards per game, San Francisco 49ers.
All the numbers.
Third best in the NFL.
I will tell you this.
Los Angeles Rams.
Go ahead.
6th worst in the NFL.
Erroneous.
Rams, 15th yards per game offense.
But you're going to tell me.
December now.
4th in the NFL.
Contenders and pretenders.
Thank you.
And we're in December football. Sean McVay.
I'm just giving you tremendous
Who's won more Super Bowls?
Let's get
Sean
some gut
McVay
instinct.
or Kyle Shanahan?
Who's more desperate tonight?
Who's won more?
Who's more desperate?
I would argue McVay and company.
McVay and company lose this game. The Packers are going to beat the Seahawks,
I believe,
and they'll be one back.
Too.
And by the way, Week 18, the Rams see Seattle.
Yeah.
So they control their own destiny.
Okay.
The Niners lose tonight. They're eliminated.
Desperation on both sides. I think Bosa's going to play too. I just saw a video of him walking into the building. He looks like $1 million.
I'm so excited that
he's playing.
The pick that's going to bury you guys. The TG was right in front of you.
No,
you
it's
denied
not.
it.
This is TG. 9-2 on a Thursday night.
Here's the thing, and this is why.
What's the moon reading? I need moon reading.
You tell me all the time. There's got to be context within the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Noodles, you're a big analytics guy. Context really, really matters. And here's the context.
It's how you apply the numbers to your knowledge.
Exactly.
Apply them, then apply them.
Here it is, okay? You're bringing up season-long stats. You know what has not been around for the whole year?
What?
Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, and Cooper Kupp. Those three have not played together all season long. But in the games in which they have, in the last 2 years since they've been put together in this offense, they have been elite. They're 11-5 with those guys out there averaging 27 points, 383 yards per game. And that is a far cry from the 19 points that they're averaging.
Three-headed monster.
Only one of them are out.
Yeah.
So with all three of those guys, and keep in mind, they beat them earlier this year 30-20 without two of them. Cooper and Puka were not in that game, and they still went and laid 30 burger.
Stafford cooks
hard
tonight.
to beat it. Hard to beat a team twice. What about the Rams defense, my guy? Are you not worried?
I'm not worried about Brock Purdy.
You're not worried.
Last 4 games, they've
Brock
given
Purdy,
up.
it's warm. You said it the other day. You were right. Cabbage hands. They got blown out in the cold in Green Bay. They got blown out in the snow game.
Yeah, that's right.
Listen, the Bears' defense has been fine all year.
They've quit. The Bears have quit.
They absolutely smacked them. Why has Vegas got this team favored then with all these stats? Explain to me
because
why
it's
this team's
about
favored.
covering the number.
It is a trap game for dummies to be like, the Rams are going to win. I'm going to take this on money line.
Right.
Vegas knows.
Absolutely
Hayes,
not.
I try to give you TG.
Listen, I love where your head's at. I love where the tremendous information is. I love where my gut instinct is at. We're locking it in right here, right now.
Let's
go.
Lock it in, Partsy. The Rams for life. The Rams lock it in plus 2.5. And I think this line may move a little bit. If anything, it's going towards the Rams.
You're telling me Bosa's playing tonight?
Okay.
It's not confirmed, but I think he probably will.
Greenlaw's off the bench?
Bosa, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
He'll be on a snap count.
Noodles, you're concerned for who? For us or for the other guys?
So I want, before we go, I want Joe from the Bridge or JP to just clip this one line. Trap game for dummies. That's all that. And if you guys lose, he's going to play that ad nauseum tomorrow, correct?
Right.
Is that what's going to happen?
That can happen.
Listen.
That's fine. We're
Noodles,
still plus
you know what
one.
the pro athletes have done now? We weathered the storm. We're here. Great cover Monday night. But now it's time to turn up the heat. Let's see if the frauds can handle the kitchen.
We went 2-0 last week.
I know,
it's not
exactly.
like we're
Which,
on
by the
fire.
way,
I brought this up. Scumbag tweet. Every other time we have a weekend that you guys have done well and you've taken the whole shebang of what the record was, including our losses. We won last week. We didn't miss a pick. Okay, and all of a sudden you're like, 2-0. No, it wasn't.
Based on our
it wasn't.
We were 2-0.
So it's 2-0 when we hit, but when we miss,
that's
it's
right.
3-0.
Context.
That's scumbag stats. It's terrible TG. It's
Context.
+1 tonight.
Context, man. That's
how you apply the numbers.
That's right.
Undefeated week for Hayes and Bro when we pick our game.
That's right.
That's what the tweet was all about.
That's the code we live by. Is context.
I'm going to tell you, Hayes. I'm going to tell you.
Lock it in. Rams plus 2.5.
But I want to tell you an honest, and tell me if this is wrong. I walked in here 10, 15 minutes ago. Al's bro was back there, probably trying to schmooze Doogie. Okay? There it is. Right there. There's the photo.
Confrontation.
Two gentlemen.
Tried to tell me
Two
the
role
Rams.
models.
And I walked in
bad.
and I said this. Tell me I'm lying. I said, I know you're taking the Rams, and I'm going to let you know right now, this is fool's gold, buddy.
All right.
And he sat there, and the look on his face when I was like, and I've got the TG, this man saw the face. It was a ghost. It was like he saw a ghost.
He saw the devil.
Deep down, I know that he said that trying to get into my mind to make us make the other
He's
pick.
trying to do the reverse
exactly.
stuff, but we don't
reverse
handle
psychology.
that way.
It doesn't work on us.
Exactly. It's just not. It's not going to happen. The pick's in. It's locked in. We got more picks tomorrow. We got a lot of games coming up. Right. We're gonna have Saturday games coming up soon.
Bang bang Niner gang.
We got. I hate that, man. I hate that bang bang Niner game. It's the worst. I hate that stadium. It's too far from downtown. Rams roll tonight.
Look at his fingers.
You saw something gross happen
His
in that
fingers
stadium.
are going.
Yeah, I've been there.
He
man.
didn't
I
do
saw
his
it in the
homework, Hayes. He
championship
let you down the moment. And
No, we're locked in, man.
TG
All good.
flew out the building.
TG for life. Lock it in, Al's brother. There it is.
Pro athletes.
Good seeing you, boys. Carlo Koliakovo coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Carlo's coming up. Koliakovo will be in studio at 6. Leafs Ducks tonight. We'll tee that up. A bunch of games in the NHL. Get Coco's take on all of it. And I've got my list coming up at 6:30 and our best bet still to come. So Luke and Al's brother is literally out in the hallway still yelling at each other about the game tonight. Rams better win and cover, man. They better cover, or this is just going to be so tough to swallow. I mean, Luke is going to be so obnoxious tomorrow if the Niners win outright tonight. But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what comes of it. All right, more into that into the final hour. Our best bets and Carlo Koliakovo coming up in studio. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.